So I wanted to make a Shaman build which uses the Bastard Stars combined with a range of incantations which can be true comboed for massive damage. And the results were not only interesting, but also just go to show how unbalanced the game is overall. But like the video and give it to me bite-sized. So for my equipment and to get that Shaman look, I've opted for the Shining Horn headband, Caden armor, Radahn's gauntlets and Borgoat's greaves. This will provide us with some pretty good defense and poise, which will be important for our caster, which may struggle against aggressive enemies who can stagger us out of our casting animations. Then we have our Golden Order seal, with scales from both our intelligence and faith investment, allowing us to get the most bang for our buck on our stats. The Academy Glintstone staff will also give us pretty good scaling on our intelligence investment, and lastly, we then have the Bastard Stars. This weapon is a fantastic damage dealer on unsuspecting opponents, but is terrible in a close range battle. This is due to the fact that our skill, Nebula, does not have hyper armor, meaning a gentle breeze can knock us out of the attack. But when used at a distance, the weapon art has a deceptively long hitbox, and the follow-up stars will explode, catching anyone within the radius. This is especially useful if your opponent rolls towards you, causing them to get surrounded and caught in a flurry of explosions. Then we have the Great Jar's Arsenal for a 19% boost to our equip load. The Erdtree Favor +2 will boost our health, stamina and equip load. The Borgoat's Talisman will boost our poise for 33%, and our Radagon's Icon will provide us with 30 virtual dexterity, boosting our cast speed. But now let's look at our spells, which will make up the bulk of our attack combinations. We have the Rock Blaster, which deals brilliant damage and can stagger enemies if hit by the strike and explosion. Then we can follow up with Catch Flame, which is single-handedly the most broken part of this build for a number of reasons. For example, the attack is really quick, it can cause stagger damage to enemies, it deals great damage, it can be chain cast, it can be cast whilst jumping, it costs pennies to use, and it can be used to start a variety of true combos on a number of builds. Specifically, you can follow up Catch Flame with Stone of Gurranq, which is fantastic for catching an enemy at a distance with a wide lingering hitbox, which is great for both close ranged and long range battles. Then lastly, Pest Threads is used to pressure opponents who are playing safe or finishing off enemies with low health due to brilliant tracking and damage, which can encourage opponents to charge you, allowing you to catch them in a true combo or to utilize a combination of spells for damage. Looking at our stats, we have 53 Vigor and 26 Endurance, which is fine as our Erdtree Favor +2 will boost our health to the kind of values you'd expect to see at 60 Vigor, alongside giving us some extra stamina. 28 Mind will allow us to cast whatever spell combinations we need without having to run for a flask, and the 22 Dexterity is required for our Bastard Stars requirements. I've then gone for 40 Intelligence and 30 Faith on a level 137 Astrologer, with all equipment one level below the maximum, so you can safely test out the equipment and change your mind later on. Now let's turn to our strategy. There are usually two kinds of opponents you meet in the arena. Super passive players who like to play Ring Around the Rosies while spamming spells from a distance, or hyper aggressive enemies who need to be in your face at all costs. We can pretty much counter both of these with our setup, starting with the ranged players. Pest Threads will literally pest any ranged opponent to death, forcing them to roll away and likely get hit for damage. On aggressive enemies, the Rock Blaster is great for both staggering and damaging, and you can always follow up with Catch Flame multiple times depending on how long it takes for them to roll away. If they keep staying in your face, keep burning them until they get the message. The Rock of Gurranq can be followed up to catch enemies both nearby or at a distance, and the chain casting is pretty quick, allowing you to do a slight delay before throwing another rock. And then we have the Bastard Stars, which acts as a decent flail, but better weapon art that can smack enemies with its dodgy hitbox, alongside putting up a wall of exploding stars between you and your opponent. I wouldn't advise using this as your main weapon of attack, as the damage is weaker than Catch Flame or Rock Blaster, and you can be easily knocked out of the weapon art leaving you exposed on the ground. In PvE, these combinations do fantastic damage against any boss, but especially larger ones, as the nebula will hit on both the initial strike and the follow-up explosion, resulting in massive damage. But what are our weaknesses? Where you may struggle against fist users who have high defense and health, who won't be easily offended by the catch flame, and who can stagger you for damage while applying pressure. Also, be careful of spears. Our build tends to suit close range or long range fights, but can struggle in medium range battles, where you're not far enough to use pest threads, but not close enough to use catch flame, and perhaps your opponent can read your Stone of Gurranq or Nebula. But in summary, this build will provide you with options for countering a range of tactics in both PvP, and the ability to dish out massive damage in PvE to take down any boss. And while you might be matched against some aggressive melee fighters, our combination of short and long range tactics combined with some spacing can level the playing field, allowing you to win. Let me know your thoughts on the build, and of course subscribe. This is Bite Sized Otaku, and I hope you enjoyed.
Stupid.